A newly released report has revealed Chelsea Clinton's link to an alleged $82 million USAID scandal. As the findings surfaced, Vice President J.D. Vance issued a response that caught the entire political world off guard. This video reviews the details, the Clinton family's connection to foreign aid funding, and why Vance's remarks are causing turmoil in Washington. That morning, the Capitol was already uneasy. Conversations in the halls of power were tense, but no one expected what the Department of Governmental Ethics, DOG, would announce. Their report was concise but striking. USAID had provided $82 million to the Clinton Global Initiative. The news banner flashed everywhere. 82 million USAID fraud linked to Chelsea Clinton. The report even listed specific spending, $3 million allegedly directed toward her wedding and another $11 million toward a mansion. None of it had been reported for taxes. The reaction was immediate. Many Americans sat speechless, while others expressed disbelief. Chelsea Clinton dismissed it as a political attack from Trump's administration, insisting she never received such funds and was being singled out due to her last name. Yet DOG presented receipts, transfers, and signed documents. It was no longer a political argument, it appeared personal. Inside the White House, Vice President Vance quietly prepared his response. Calm and deliberate, he believed the truth needed to be addressed. By afternoon, the scandal dominated headlines. Every major network called Chelsea for comment. Cameras showed her arriving at a studio, composed but defiant. "This is false," she stated firmly. "I have never received a cent from USAID. This is a political attack from Donald Trump and his team. They dislike my family because we've dedicated our lives to helping others. This is their attempt to destroy us." The audience responded lightly, but her voice revealed strain. As she defended herself, images of her wedding and mansion appeared on screen. Anchors pressed harder. "But what about the records? What about the missing taxes?" Chelsea insisted. "Those documents are fabricated. My parents have been unfairly targeted for decades. This is no different." Still, the public was unconvinced. Phones buzzed and social media filled with debate. That's when the host announced a surprise guest, Vice President J.D. Vance. The screen split. On one side, Chelsea, composed but tense. On the other, Vance, calm and focused. "Good evening, America," he began evenly. "This is not about politics. It's about truth." Chelsea shifted uncomfortably as Vance continued. "The DOG report confirms $82 million was funneled from USAID to the Clinton Global Initiative. We all saw how that money was used. Millions spent on personal luxury, with none reported to the IRS. That is fraud, plain and simple." The studio fell silent. Chelsea tried to push back. "That's not true." But Vance responded firmly. "Chelsea, this is not just about money. It's about character. You are repeating the legacy of your parents, Bill and Hillary Clinton, legacies marked by corruption and dishonesty. If you don't change course, the consequences will be the same." Gasps filled the studio. Vance leaned forward, his tone sharper. "This is not a witch hunt. The evidence is clear. $3 million on a wedding, $11 million on a mansion. That is not aid. That is misuse of taxpayer money." The audience murmured, shocked. Chelsea tried to counter. "Those figures are distorted. My foundation has built schools, supported programs." But Vance shook his head. "The Clinton Global Initiative has taken millions from taxpayers for years. That money should have gone to struggling families, job programs, and veterans aid. Instead, it supported privilege at the top. Your family has become a symbol of self-interest, not service." Clips of the exchange spread instantly online. Hashtags like Clinton Exposed and Vance Truth trended across platforms. Chelsea's defense weakened. "Why are you doing this?" she asked quietly. Vance replied, "Because the American people deserve honesty." He then broadened his point. "This is not new. Bill Clinton left behind scandals and broken promises. Hillary Clinton's career has been defined by failed decisions and policies that weakened America. Instead of rejecting that record, Chelsea, you've embraced it. You've chosen the same course of corruption. The producers then placed government documents on the studio screen, bank transfers, approvals, and receipts, one page even bearing Chelsea's signature. Vance calmly noted, "This is not speculation. These are official records. Every dollar is traceable." Chelsea insisted they were forged, but her voice shook. The audience remained skeptical, and the documents spread online in real time, Vance continued. "If this was about helping the poor, you would have built homes for veterans and funded hospitals in forgotten towns. Instead, you spent millions on personal extravagance. The American people deserve better than charity in name only." Chelsea's confidence slipped, her eyes welling. Finally, Vance concluded, "This is about more than politics. It's about the moral direction of the nation. You cannot serve the poor with misused funds. You cannot claim compassion while relying on fraud. America does not need another Clinton pretending to care. America needs truth." The audience reacted with shock. Some applauded, others sat in disbelief. But one thing was clear. Vance's words had cut through the political noise and left a mark that Washington could not ignore. Some in the crowd covered their mouths in shock. Chelsea's tears slipped down her face as she whispered, "No, no." But the moment had already shifted. The host finally spoke, his voice unsteady. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is unlike anything we've witnessed before." Social media exploded instantly. Millions of reactions poured in, some angry, some relieved, all surprised. Clips of J.D. Vance's words spread everywhere. "America does not need another Clinton pretending to care." That single line cut through decades of political defense. For the first time, Chelsea Clinton was left silent on live television while J.D. Vance had changed the discussion in Washington with one statement. Her silence could not last. Eyes red, cheeks wet, Chelsea sat upright, forcing strength back into her voice. "This is nothing but theater," she declared, slamming her hand on the table. "Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are spreading lies to smear me. My parents fought for America, and I've dedicated my life to helping people. This so-called evidence is being used to attack my family because we refuse to give in to their agenda." The audience responded with a mix of applause and disapproval. J.D. Vance remained composed. Leaning toward his microphone, he said evenly, "Chelsea, no one forced you to spend taxpayer money on yourself. You speak of helping the poor, yet children in Appalachia still go hungry while you host million-dollar weddings." Chelsea bit her lip, her voice unsteady. "You're twisting everything." Vance kept calm. "No, America is seeing the truth in real time, and the truth doesn't bow to privilege." The studio fell still. It was no longer debate, it was exposure. Turning his eyes to the camera, Vance addressed the public. "For years, the Clinton Global Initiative has been presented as a lifeline for the poor. But in reality, it became a personal account for the Clinton family. Behind him, charts appeared showing donations and grants disappearing into private accounts. Billions were promised to rebuild communities abroad," Vance explained, "but when inspectors arrived, nothing existed. Schools, hospitals, jobs, none of it was real. And now, $82 million from American taxpayers meant for struggling nations ended up funding estates and private events." The audience reacted strongly. Some mothers clutched their children, veterans shook their heads. Chelsea's breathing grew heavier as she whispered, "You don't understand." "We tried," Vance answered firmly. "What you tried was deceiving the American people. That ends today." The studio broke into cheers and calls from the crowd. Phones across the country lit up. Families at home turned up their televisions. Truck drivers stopped to watch on their phones. The nation was tuned in. Rival news channels flashed headlines. J.D. Vance exposes Clinton Foundation and Chelsea Clinton cornered in $82 million scandal. Chelsea looked toward the audience. Some showed sympathy, but most looked betrayed. Vance lowered his voice. America has been robbed for too long. While ordinary people pay taxes, the elite have taken advantage in secret. This isn't just a scandal, it's a crime against every hard-working citizen. Tears streamed from some in the audience. One woman stood and shouted, "Enough is enough!" Chelsea buried her face in her hands, shaking. J.D. Vance, steady as ever, ended with a warning, "Justice is coming, whether the powerful accept it or not." The studio erupted in applause. Chelsea quickly wiped her face, trying to recover. She sat taller and turned to Vance sharply. "You think you can humiliate me on television?" she said, her voice edged with anger. "But you forget, Mr. Vance. My family has survived worse. My parents have been attacked for decades, and they're still standing. This will not defeat us." The audience reacted with mixed voices, some clapping, others booing. Vance stayed calm, his hands folded. Chelsea leaned forward, almost pleading. "You call us corrupt, but where would America be without the Clintons? My father led this nation through prosperity. My mother fought for justice. I have carried their work forward." The crowd shifted restlessly. Many shook their heads. Vance replied quietly, "Chelsea, history does not forget prosperity built on falsehoods. Tonight, truth speaks louder than your defense." Chelsea swallowed, her face pale. The room waited for Vance to continue, expecting more. His voice dropped, lower, measured, and precise. "You speak of your mother as a champion of justice, but the record tells another story." The screen displayed headlines and official reports. Hillary Clinton linked to border policies, approvals tied to Biden's auto pen, and decisions that fueled instability. The audience gasped. One man shouted, "My town was ruined because of that border." A woman whispered, "We lived through it." Vance continued, "Chelsea, your mother was not a defender of justice. She helped build the crisis we live with today, allowing crime, neglecting citizens, cutting deals behind closed doors. And instead of rejecting that legacy, you followed it." Chelsea's lips trembled. For a moment, she seemed crushed under the weight of her family's history. The audience stayed silent, waiting for more. Vance then turned back to the past. "Your father, Bill Clinton, held office for 8 years. What did America inherit? Scandals, broken promises, failures. From 1993 to 2001, little was left to stand the test of time. Instead, the country was weakened and divided. That is his legacy, and it is the shadow you chose to follow." Chelsea's eyes welled with tears. She shook her head, whispering, "Stop, please stop." Vance didn't falter. "America cannot afford to repeat those mistakes. You had an opportunity to step away from that shadow. Instead, you embraced it, betraying those you claimed to serve." The studio filled with whispers. Some clutched their hearts, others sat stunned. Chelsea's defenses were breaking apart. The producers displayed more files on the large screen. This time, the documents outlined years of activity, funds, donations, and international deals that never reached their goals. Vance addressed the room. "This scandal did not begin yesterday. The Clinton Global Initiative has long redirected resources away from those in need." The screen showed images of abandoned sites across Africa, South America, and rural America. Projects that were supposed to be built were never completed. "Billions pledged," Vance said, "but no results. Families who gave in good faith now know the truth. It was all an illusion." The crowd reacted with anger. A veteran shouted, "That money could have saved lives." Chelsea's hands trembled, her quiet words drowned out by outrage. Vance pressed further. Last year, I visited families in Appalachia who were told they'd receive aid through Clinton programs. They are still living in broken homes, still waiting for clean water. They were forgotten, while funds went to luxury. The screen showed a family of 4 in a rundown house. A mother wept as she described the promises never kept. The studio went silent. Chelsea shook her head, saying, "No, this isn't fair. We tried. Running a foundation is hard." Vance looked at her firmly. "Chelsea, hard work means digging. Wells, building schools, helping veterans, not million-dollar weddings. America sees the difference now." The audience broke into applause, some with tears in their eyes. What remained was more than corruption. It was betrayal. Chelsea's face grew pale, her voice unsteady. She whispered, "You don't understand. This is bigger than me." Her hands shook as she clutched her chair. The host leaned in gently. "Chelsea, would you like to take a break?" But Vance spoke firmly. "No, the American people don't get breaks from the consequences of corruption. Tonight, the truth stays on this table." The audience erupted, louder than before. Chelsea looked out over the crowd, faces that once admired her family now filled with anger, sadness, and disappointment. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she whispered, "Please stop." But the vice president pressed on. His words were steady, deliberate, and sharp. "Chelsea, the time to stop was before the money was misused. Now is the time for accountability." The studio filled with applause as Americans watched one of the most startling political moments unfold live. The producers switched the screen to a world map, glowing with red dots. Haiti, Nigeria, South Sudan. Each dot marked millions in aid promised by the Clinton Global Initiative, but never delivered. Vance's voice grew heavier. "This isn't only about U.S. tax dollars being stolen. It's about the poorest communities in the world being denied hope. Villages told they would have schools got nothing. Families told they would receive medicine buried their children instead." Gasps spread across the room as photos appeared of abandoned sites where schools should have stood. Chelsea's face showed panic. "Those weren't my fault. We partnered with other groups. Things went wrong on the ground?" Vance did not flinch. "No, Chelsea. Things went wrong in your boardrooms. Things went wrong when money for the poor was redirected into private accounts." The audience erupted, some shouting in anger, others frozen in disbelief. Turning to the camera again, Vance addressed the public directly. "To every American watching, the $82 million from USAID was not the first betrayal. It was simply the one exposed." He paused to let the weight settle. For decades, the Clinton Foundation built an image of charity overseas. Promises were made after disasters, but the funds disappeared. Families were told help was coming, but nothing arrived. That wasn't charity, it was exploitation. The audience murmured loudly. Mothers held their children close. Veterans lowered their heads. Chelsea's voice broke as she pleaded, "You're twisting this. My family has done good. So much good." Vance's answer was calm but firm. "Chelsea, good isn't measured in ribbon cuttings or photographs. Good is measured in lives saved, homes built, and children fed, and by every measure that matters, your foundation failed." The room fell silent under the weight of the words. Chelsea lowered her face into her hands, sobbing. "Why are you doing this to me? Why are you tearing me apart on live television?" Vance remained composed. "I'm not doing this to you, Chelsea. I'm doing this for those who trusted you, for veterans waiting on housing, for single mothers who needed support, for children overseas who were promised schools but left with nothing." The audience rose to its feet, clapping and crying. Chelsea lifted her head slowly, streaked with tears, her defenses broken. Vance's gaze stayed locked on her as he delivered a line that echoed nationwide. "Chelsea, this was never about you being attacked. This is about America standing up to say, enough." The studio roared, and the country watched history unfold. Outside, cities across the U.S. gathered in front of large screens. New York, Dallas, Chicago, Miami. Chants rose from the streets. No more fraud, no more lies. Inside the studio, Vance leaned closer. This isn't just about Chelsea Clinton. It's about the Washington machine that has protected her family for decades. A system that rewarded failure and ignored taxpayer money disappearing. The host shifted nervously. He had never witnessed such blunt words on live television. Vance pointed at the camera. For years, agencies approved checks to the Clinton Global Initiative, knowing accountability would never come. Why? Because the Clintons held power, because Washington feared them. The audience gasped. Some clapped, others shouted. Chelsea's voice cracked. You make it sound like I control Washington. Vance turned to her, calm but cutting. Chelsea, you don't run Washington, but your family profited from it, and America is done paying the price. The crowd burst into applause. Washington itself seemed shaken. The producers pulled up another set of files. Contracts, agreements, confidential, memos, documents showing the Clinton Foundation's funding streams, not only from USAID, but also from partnerships with corporations and foreign governments. Vance pointed to the evidence. Here it is, plain as day. While American small businesses collapsed under debt, your foundation accepted millions through backroom deals from corporations under investigation and from foreign powers that expected favors in return. The audience grew restless, whispers spreading across the studio. Chelsea struck the table with her fist. You can't prove those were bribes. Every foundation accepts donations. Vance responded steadily. There's a difference between charity and corruption. Charity doesn't demand favors in return. Charity doesn't auction off America to the highest bidder. The host froze. The words were sharp, and he knew they carried weight. Online, hashtags spread rapidly. Washington exposed and no more Clintons. The nation wasn't just witnessing a scandal. They were watching decades of influence and deals come to an end. Chelsea's face flushed, her voice breaking as she tried to respond. You're destroying me. You're destroying my family's legacy. The audience reacted loudly, some shouting back, Your family destroyed themselves. J.D. Vance turned toward her, his tone deliberate. Chelsea, America isn't watching. Your family's legacy collapse. They're seeing it clearly for what it has always been, false promises, hidden corruption, and betrayal of trust. The studio went silent, broken only by Chelsea's quiet sobs. Vance faced the camera. This moment is larger than one name or one scandal. It's about whether this nation will continue to let elites live by rules different from everyone else. The audience rose in applause, some crying as they clapped. Chelsea sat motionless, her final defense stripped away. Across the country, viewers sensed that Washington had been permanently changed. The air in the studio grew heavy, as if drained. The camera zoomed in on Chelsea's trembling face, capturing every tear. Vance's tone was calm but firm. Chelsea, your family built an empire not of service but of exploitation. You wore the mask of public service, but behind it were greed and betrayal. Tonight, America is removing that mask. The crowd erupted again, voices rising. Tell the truth. Chelsea tried to speak, but no words came. Her lips quivered, her shoulders shook. Vance pressed on. For years, Washington elites told Americans they didn't matter, that the powerful knew best. But this scandal proves otherwise. Every dollar taken, every promise broken, has names, faces, and lives attached to it. And those lives deserve justice. Tears filled the eyes of the audience. The exchange felt less like a debate and more like judgment, Chelsea finally snapped, pounding the table once more. You don't understand what it's like. You don't know the pressure of carrying this name." The crowd booed. One voice shouted back, "We carry the pressure of feeding our kids." Vance didn't raise his voice. He waited until silence returned. "Chelsea, you seek America's sympathy, but sympathy belongs to those who suffered while you lived in mansions. It belongs to veterans without homes, families without food, and children still waiting for schools that never came." The screen behind him lit up. Veterans under bridges, children in worn clothes, mothers outside shuttered clinics. The audience cried openly. A woman in the front row clasped her hands in prayer. Chelsea hid her face, trembling, as the weight of her family's choices was laid bare. Vance looked at her, steady but not cruel. He spoke slowly, each word deliberate. "Chelsea, America never needed your family's empire. It needed honesty. It needed leaders willing to sacrifice for the people, not profit from them." The crowd gasped, many standing to their feet. The host sat frozen, unable to move. Chelsea's tears flowed freely. She whispered, "Stop, please." But Vance's voice cut through. "You call it pressure to carry your name. But the real pressure has always been on forgotten Americans who never had your wealth, privilege, or chances. And still, they carried themselves with more dignity than your family's legacy ever gave them." The studio erupted again. Viewers nationwide sat stunned, many in tears. It was a moment that left Chelsea broken and Washington shaken. The silence afterward was suffocating. Every eye remained on Chelsea, who sat trembling, her makeup streaked with tears. She no longer looked like the heir of a dynasty, but like someone crushed by truth. Vance shifted slightly toward the audience. His tone softened. "This scandal is not just about corruption. It's about what happens when leaders put themselves above the people, when promises turn into excuses and power into a weapon." On the screen, more images appeared. Closed factories, struggling farmers, children studying under broken roofs. Each one a reminder of what millions of dollars could have saved but never did. The audience broke down again, some whispering prayers, others crying for justice. Chelsea buried her face in her hands, whispering words no microphone caught, just fragments of regret, but Vance remained steady. "The time for excuses is over. The American people will no longer be silenced." Chelsea tried one final defense, her voice faint. "I never wanted this." The vice president leaned in, his tone sharp but even. "Chelsea, you may not have wanted this moment, but the American people never wanted betrayal. They never wanted their trust abused, their money stolen, their future sold." He paused, then delivered the line that ended it all. "You lived off the suffering of the forgotten. Tonight, the forgotten are finally speaking back." The crowd roared. Tears streamed. Chants of "enough is enough" filled the studio. Chelsea sat frozen, broken. The weight of her family's empire collapsed before a national audience. For the first time in decades, the Clinton name was not untouchable. It was exposed. J.D. Vance stood, the crowd standing with him. The vice president had turned a scandal into a national reckoning. The broadcast ended, but across the country, families sat in silence, many crying. For once, they felt justice. For once, they felt heard. Newsrooms scrambled, commentators debated. But one fact remained: J.D. Vance had spoken what no one else would. He had shifted the narrative and restored hope to those who thought their voices didn't matter. Chelsea Clinton left the studio quietly, escorted by aides, her head bowed. But the story had moved beyond her. It now belonged to the people who had just witnessed history. Vance closed the night with words that echoed across the nation. "America belongs to its people, not its elites. And starting tonight, we take her back. The audience roared once more. Families at home cried and applauded through their tears. My friends, you've just witnessed a moment that shook Washington and touched millions of hearts. If this spoke to you, if it gave you hope, don't. Stay silent. Hit that like button, subscribe now, and share your thoughts below. Your voice matters. And for those who want to go further, join our membership to unlock exclusive stories and insights. Together, we'll keep exposing the truth and keep America's hope alive.